There are moments when everything feels arranged, as if someone or something has set it all in place ahead of time. The rain comes just as you need silence. A person walks away just as you learn how to stand on your own. A door slams shut, and in your reluctant turning, you realize the way out was always in the opposite direction. Have you ever felt that I've sat in this room more times than I can count late at night? No one left to blame, nothing left to hold on to. And that's when I began to see it. Every effort to grip tightly only made the things I loved slip faster through my fingers. Like sand, the more I clenched, the more I lost. We grow up in a world that tells us, push harder, fight for it, seize control of your destiny. But there comes a time when you're too tired to push, and you pull over to the shoulder of life, and you realize maybe not everything needs to be forced. Some things only arrive when you stop asking for them. If it's written in your fate, it will find you. If it isn't, no amount of striving can bring it closer. That's not defeat. That's a deeper kind of wisdom. The kind that recognizes our limits. The kind that whispers, maybe heaven knows something we don't. That when something refuses to happen, maybe it's protecting you from a kind of pain you can't yet see. I've mourned relationships that never became, jobs I didn't land, chances that passed by with the indifference of a train that never even slowed down. And yet, looking back now, had I gotten all those things, would I even be here speaking these words to you? No. I'd be somewhere else, as someone else, perhaps a version of me who never learned how to release, how to soften, how to be still. You may not believe in fate. I didn't either. But over time, as the puzzle pieces of life start falling into place slowly, quietly, like a sad song, bleeding through the wall from the room next door, you begin to see maybe there was a reason. Maybe it was the best arrangement possible. Everything you try to control ends up controlling you. But when you stop clinging, something curious happens, this strange kind of lightness. Not the euphoria of a win, but the quiet breath of being set free. Not everyone needs to understand this. But maybe you do. Because if you're still here, listening among all the noise the world throws at you, maybe you're searching for something deeper. Something that success money or a 5-year plan can't give you. Maybe you've done everything right. Given, tried, stayed kind, and still somehow it isn't enough. Still somehow it feels like you've been left behind. Still you ask, why? I don't have the answer, but I do have a sense that maybe the question doesn't need an answer, only a surrender. Because life isn't meant to be fully understood. It's meant to be lived through. Not every moment needs to make sense. Some just need to be felt. So if today you've lost something, please don't rush to call it a tragedy. If someone leaves, don't be so quick to resent them. Maybe their part in your story is simply done. Maybe their departure is the beginning of something quieter, truer, kinder. Maybe we don't need certainty, just a little faith. Faith that if you keep doing good, if you stay soft-hearted, if you remain generous, even if things don't make sense, now heaven is arranging something. Not because you deserve it, but because that's how the universe works. A silent reciprocity that never misses. An echo of everything you've ever given without expecting in return. Like yelling into an empty valley and waiting. Just a little while, and then you'll hear it a whisper coming back. Not because it answers your question, but because it lets you know you're not alone anymore. If something in these words made you pause, breathe, or feel just a little less alone, then maybe, just maybe, you're meant to stay a while. Click. Like if this spoke to you. Share it with someone who walks through quiet valleys too. And if you'd like more moments like this, whispers instead of noise, subscribe. We're here. Softly. There's a strange quiet that settles in when you stop asking life to make sense. Not the quiet of resignation, but the kind that wraps itself around you like a soft evening fog. You're still walking, still breathing, but something in you has let go. The grip is softer now, and in that quiet, a different kind of truth begins to emerge. One that doesn't shout, doesn't demand. It just is. You start to notice how things arrive without invitation. How the right people come into your life, not when you chase them, but when you finally make peace with being alone. How solutions appear after you've stopped looking for them. How sometimes your deepest pain has been gently rerouting you back to yourself. I once heard someone say, "All things are lessons God would have us learn." And at the time, I thought it was just a pretty phrase. But over the years, I've started to see how even the people who hurt us the most, maybe especially them, are part of that curriculum. The heartbreaks, the betrayals, the silences, they're not punishments. They're refinements, like a sculptor chiseling away what is not essential, not aligned, not truly ours. And maybe that's what fate really is. Not some cosmic puppeteer pulling strings, but a quiet intelligence, removing what no longer serves our becoming. even when we scream, even when we resist. Especially then, you don't need to understand the reason something is happening for it to be happening for you. You don't have to like it, but you can stop fighting it. You can stop believing that your suffering means something has gone wrong. Because what if, stay with me here, what if everything that feels like loss is actually rearrangement? What if your soul knew what it needed before you ever had the words? And what if this moment, this one you're in right now, with all its weight and ache, isn't evidence that life is unfair, but a soft unfolding of something kinder than you imagined, a kind of grace that doesn't always feel like grace at first. We're so conditioned to think in terms of effort and outcome. Do this, get that. Be good, receive good. But life isn't a vending machine. It's more like a garden. You plant water, wait, and sometimes the seeds you buried in silence sprout only after you've forgotten where you planted them. Sometimes the harvest comes after a long winter of absence, of nothing, of wondering if anything was ever going to grow. But then it does, not because you earned it, not because you forced it, but because you allowed it, because you made space, because you let the soil be still long enough for something real to take root. You see, the universe doesn't rush. Trees don't force their blossoms open. Rivers don't panic when they hit a bend. They curve. They flow. They trust the shape of the earth beneath them. Could you let go just enough to trust that the detour is the path? Could you forgive the silence for not answering you faster? Could you believe, even for one breath, that what you lost wasn't meant to stay? Not because you weren't enough, but because it wasn't. Not aligned, not real, not ready. And you're still becoming. You're not late. You're not wrong. You're not broken. You're just in the middle of a story that hasn't shown you its ending yet. A story written in pauses, in left turns, in moments that feel like mistakes, but are actually choreography, divine choreography. And maybe the only thing you're being asked to do right now is keep showing up. Keep softening instead of hardening. Keep planting instead of doubting. Keep listening for the whisper underneath all the noise, the one that says, "You're not alone. You never were." What if I told you that letting go is not the same as giving up? We use those words like they're interchangeable, but they aren't. One is born of defeat, the other of understanding. To let go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop trying to control what was never yours to begin with. It's the moment you unclench your fists, not because you have nothing left to hold, but because you realize maybe you were never meant to hold it in the first place. There's a kind of dignity in surrender that's often misunderstood. Not the passive kind. Not the resigned silence of someone who's been broken, but the quiet resolve of someone who finally accepts that some battles aren't worth winning because peace was never in the victory, but in the stepping away. You start to see that the things you were most afraid to lose are often the very things keeping you from being free. The illusion of control, the weight of expectations, the fear of being seen as less than. And when those fall away, when you stop chasing the version of your life that never quite materialized, something softer emerges. Clarity. Not always the kind that answers questions, but the kind that makes the questions less loud, less urgent. You begin to hear other things, the sound of your own breath, the way light changes across your room as the day grows old, the silence between your thoughts. It's in those spaces that grace enters. Have you noticed? We spend so much of our time reacting, trying to prove, to protect, to preserve some version of who we think we should be. But underneath all that noise is a self that's quietly asking, what if I have to try so hard? What if I'm okay? Even now, what if the pain is not a punishment? What if the closed doors aren't rejections, but redirections? What if what left you only left because it finished teaching you? Maybe you don't need more strength. Maybe you just need softer walls. Not every experience has to turn you into armor. Some are just meant to open you up, to remind you that there's beauty in fragility. That cracks let the light in. Yes, but they also let the truth out. The kind of truth that doesn't need to be polished or profound. The kind that simply says, you're still here. And that's enough. And in the middle of your not knowing, your in between, your almost but not yet something is still growing. Something in you. The courage to stay with discomfort. The humility to admit you don't have all the answers. The wisdom to not force them. Because life, real life, doesn't always reward effort with outcome. Sometimes it rewards presence with perspective. And when that shift happens, you begin to see the people around you differently too. You stop asking, why are they treating me this way? And start asking, what is this teaching me about myself? You stop chasing closure and start practicing compassion. You stop needing every ending to make sense, because you realize maybe not every chapter is supposed to resolve. Maybe some are meant to linger, to hum softly in the background, unresolved like the final note of a song that never quite lands, but stays with you anyway. Not every encounter is forever. Not every love story ends in always. Some are just brief collisions of meaning, and that's okay. That's enough, because the point was never permanence. It was presence. It was who you became in the midst of it. what you learned, what you unlearned, and most of all, how you kept your heart soft, even when life wasn't. There's a tenderness in understanding that nothing truly belongs to us. Not our possessions, not our titles, not even the people we love. Everything everyone is passing through, we don't own, we host. And when we remember that something inside us shifts, the tightness in our chest begins to loosen, the clenched hands begin to fall open, because it was never about holding on. It was about holding gently and then releasing. Like watching a balloon rise into the sky, you don't chase it, you just watch it go. A little ache in your heart, a little smile on your face, because it meant something, even if it didn't stay. That's what it means to live with open hands, with open eyes, with an open heart. You start to see how much beauty there is in what you can't keep. A sunset, a conversation, a fleeting moment of kindness from a stranger. These are the sub-miracles of life. Not the grand triumphs, but the tiny echoes of grace that pass through us every day, often unnoticed. And maybe that's what we're here for. Not to conquer, but to notice. Not to possess, but to receive. And when the hard days come, and they will, you'll remember this. You'll remember that your worth is not tied to your achievements. That love is not a transaction. That sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is the permission to just be unfinished, unpolished, in process, like a field lying fallow, not because it's failing, but because it's preparing to bloom again. We don't talk about this enough, the sacredness of waiting, of becoming, of not knowing. But that space between what was and what will be, that's where most of life actually happens. In the questions, in the pause, in the inhale, before the answer. So if you find yourself there now, in the fog, in the limbo, in the in-between, don't rush it. Don't wish it away. Sit with it. Let it teach you the language of stillness. Let it rearrange the furniture of your soul. Because something happens when you stop demanding clarity. You begin to develop trust, not blind optimism, not naive hope, but a quiet, steady faith that whatever you're being asked to walk through will not be wasted, that every tear has purpose, every silence is sacred, every detour is divine, and maybe, just maybe, this moment is not here to test you. Maybe it's here to soften you, to shape you, to strip away what was never yours, so you can return to what's always been. You, whole, even in your fragments, belonging, even in your uncertainty, worthy, even in your becoming. Have you ever watched someone walk away without looking back? There's a silence in that moment that doesn't come from absence, but from understanding, a kind of quiet that says this chapter is over, even if no one said the words out loud. It's strange how some goodbyes don't echo. They just settle. And in that settling, you start to see the shape of your own resilience. Not because you bounced back, not because you filled the space they left behind, but because you let it stay empty for a while. You honored the hollow. You didn't rush to replace. You just breathed. We don't give ourselves enough credit for that kind of strength, the kind that doesn't look like strength at all, the kind that simply endures, the kind that chooses not to become bitter, because when pain comes, it always offers you two paths, harden or open. And every time you choose to stay open, you win. Not in the way the world defines winning, but in the deeper sense, in the sense that you kept your humanity intact, that you refused to become what hurt you, that you stayed soft when it would have been easier to become sharp. That's power. Gentle, silent, unshakable. There's something sacred about a person who has suffered and still chooses kindness, who has known betrayal and still chooses trust, who has every reason to shut the door and still leaves it slightly ajar. That kind of person changes rooms, not with noise, but with presence. And maybe that's what you are, someone who brings quiet with them. Not silence that silences others, but silence that allows others to hear themselves again. You don't need to fix people. You don't need to be the loudest, the brightest, the most certain. You just need to be true, to sit with someone's sorrow without rushing it away, to see someone's shadow without shrinking back, to let another soul unravel in your presence and still feel held. That's not small. That's not nothing. That is everything. And if no one's told you lately, let me be the one to say it. You are doing better than you think. Not because everything's going right, but because even when things are going wrong, you're still choosing the path of grace, still planting good seeds even if the soil looks barren, still holding space for joy even if sorrow keeps showing up, still believing, however quietly, that there's a purpose to it all. And there is. Maybe not one you'll see today, maybe not even this year, but the soul keeps the score, and nothing is lost. Not the love you gave without return, not the effort no one saw, not the forgiveness you offered in silence, not the tears you cried in the dark. All of it kept, all of it sacred. So keep going, not because it's easy, but because something in you knows this path, though narrow, though quiet, is yours, and it will lead you home. Some people believe the universe is random, that things just happen, no meaning, no rhythm, no order, just chaos wrapped in coincidence. And maybe that's true. But if it is, why does it feel like some moments were tailor-made for you? Why does the stranger's smile arrive just as you were about to fall apart? Why does the right sentence find you in the middle of a sleepless night? Not before, not after, but exactly then. Why do certain people enter your life with the precision of a note, landing perfectly in a song, coincidence, or choreography? I'm not here to convince you either way. But I will say this: some moments feel too deeply aligned to be accidents. Some losses feel too precisely timed to be mistakes. And some meetings feel like déjà vu. Not because they've happened before, but because they were always meant to. You've likely had them, the friendships that begin mid-conversation, as if continuing something ancient. The jobs that fall apart only to make room for the one that truly fits. The doors that close so violently you're flung in the direction you should have been walking all along. Painful, yes, but unmistakably placed. And once you see this pattern, you can't unsee it. You begin to trust the detours. You begin to forgive the delays. You begin to stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now?" Because you realize it's not personal. It's purposeful. Even the suffering, even the silence, especially the silence, that long, aching stretch where nothing seems to move, where your prayers feel like voicemails left on a full inbox, where your questions return unanswered. That's not punishment. That's preparation. Like the stillness before dawn. Like the hush before a symphony begins. Like the breath before the arrow is released. Something is coming, but only if you don't flee the silence. Only if you stay. Stay when it's boring. Stay when it's lonely. Stay when your faith feels threadbare and your hope feels foolish. Because something is stitching itself together in that quiet. Something ancient and tender and precise. And no, you won't understand it while it's happening. But you're not supposed to. Understanding is not a prerequisite for transformation. You don't have to get it to be changed by it. You just have to remain open honest here, even in the fog, even in the pause, even when you can't see 2 feet ahead. Because sometimes the clearest path is the one you walk blind. One step, one breath, one soft yes at a time. If something in these words found a quiet place in you, if even for a moment you felt seen or softer or just a little more whole, then maybe this isn't the end of the conversation. Click. Like if it resonated. Share it with someone who needs a gentler kind of reminder. And if you'd like to sit with more of these reflections, subscribe. No pressure, just presence. The deepest truths don't arrive with fireworks. They come in whispers, in ordinary moments that suddenly feel weighted, sacred, as if time paused just long enough for something real to step through. And maybe that's how you'll know. Not by certainty, not by proof, but by a quiet sense of alignment. A feeling that says, this is yours. Keep going, because life rarely gives us confirmation in advance. It asks us to leap, to trust, to risk, to walk forward in the dark, believing that something solid will meet our foot. And every time it does, even if just barely, you remember faith was never about knowing. It was about moving anyway. There's something holy in that kind of courage, to keep softening when the world hardens you, to keep choosing kindness, not because it's easy, but because it's who you are, to keep sowing good even when the soil gives nothing back. That's the long work, the slow work, the kind of becoming that doesn't shout but hums. And in that hum, something grows. Unseen, perhaps. Uncelebrated, but growing. And maybe one day, on a morning like any other, you'll notice it. Not because something outside changed, but because you did. Your breath is deeper. Your heart is steadier. Your joy gentler. And you'll realize the life you were trying to build by force has quietly been building itself around you. Not because you wrestled it into being, but because you waited, because you stayed, because you trusted the rain to stop when it was ready, and the sun to return without your begging, because you learned the art of enough effort, enough love, enough of yourself exactly as you are. No more proving, no more pushing, just presence and gratitude for the pain that opened you, for the detours that protected you, for the people who left so you could meet yourself in the space they emptied. Everything in its time, everything as it should be. You don't need to make it happen. You just need to stay awake for when it does. If these words met you where you are, like a soft voice in a noisy world, feel free to like, share, or subscribe. We'll keep the light on. There is a kind of peace that doesn't depend on answers. It lives quietly beneath the noise, beneath the plans and the striving, beneath the voice that says you're running out of time. It waits, patient, unbothered, gentle. It knows that everything comes and everything goes, that nothing stays except the way you choose to walk through it all. So walk with grace, not perfection, not certainty, just grace. Let the seasons turn. Let the people pass through. Let the dreams shift shape. And in every moment, ask not why me, but what now. Ask not how do I fix this, but how do I meet this with kindness? Because that's what it means to live well. To walk through the fog with your heart intact. To love without needing to possess. To lose without needing to make sense of it all. To hold your days loosely. And to meet each one not with fear, but with a soft readiness that says, whatever this is, I'm here for it. And so, wherever you are right now, in the middle, in the waiting, in the quiet, unseen becoming, you are not lost. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply in motion. And the path ahead, it's unfolding beneath your feet with every soft step forward. So keep walking, keep breathing, keep trusting the unseen rhythm of things, because truly, everything is the best arrangement. Even this, especially this. Closing for now. If you need a place to breathe, we're still here. Quietly, patiently, and always waiting for you to come back.